So, folks, this is kind of a special episode of Movie Tales because we are branching off into our first subgenre of classic and dramatic movies, and we're talking our first epic tales. That's right. I, for some godforsaken reason, sat down the other night and said, you know what I'm in the mood for? Something that I just need to cleanse my palate from the hardships of society. The 4-hour Cleopatra film. That's what I needed. I was just like, it's time to get back into that world, that incredibly bleak, depressing world that I genuinely hate. The thing about this film, and I want to make this kind of abundantly clear before we get into actually talking about it, the fact that it exists is almost an offensive remark of itself, because nobody is playing who they should be playing. We can do an entire video talking about actors playing the wrong ethnicity. But Elizabeth Taylor, one of the most attractive and beautiful women to grace Hollywood in its golden period, is an Egyptian woman. No, she's not. Like, you've never seen a whiter woman. And I'm not criticizing, and actually I am criticizing. I think there's a lot of other choices you could have made to make that work. I understand doing this if Elizabeth Taylor gets it made, but it sounds like the worst experience of anybody's life. So it's Joseph Mankiewicz. You remember him, the name of the man who did The Thing for the classic movies, and now he's this big guy. He says, I want to make like a 2-part thing, 3-hour epics about, like Cleopatra's relationship with Julius Caesar, and then Mark Antony, and it's just like, okay, that's an idea to play with. But the studio's like, you can't do that. We're giving you a small amount of money. Make a one epic thing. So what happens instead? What happens instead of just like a small, little budgeted Cleopatra film with Elizabeth Taylor and Rex Harrison and Richard Burton is the most expensive film of all time. I was reading some quotes. If you were to adjust this film for inflation, it might be $400 million. That is insane, because I'd hate myself for making that movie. And that's the thing about the shoe. It's like everything that could go wrong essentially went wrong on this film. Over budget, over schedule, years over schedule, actors being replaced, actors getting sick and not able to film their lines, literally on and off screen affairs happening for some of the lead actors. It sounds like this was a terrible ordeal. People behind the scenes are being fired left and right, replaced with themselves again. It sounds terrible. Cleopatra literally sounds like the worst filmmaking experience anybody could have. But they made this thing. They actually sat down and made this thing. So let's talk about it. First off, let's get this out of the way. It's important to say, I kind of was joking about it earlier. You have to say this before you get into this. It is made from a certain time period where the people in charge did not give a shit about accuracy. This is from a period when John Wayne was Genghis Khan. Nobody gave a shit. Okay, so Little Miss White Woman Elizabeth Taylor stepping onto the scene as Cleopatra is offensive and wrong and very off-putting, and it's annoying as fuck, and you just hate yourself for sitting through all 4 hours of this thing. That's the other thing. It's a 4-hour movie. It does have like an intermission, but it does not help. So I think in honor of that, we're going to break this into 2 parts. We're going to do the beginning, have an intermission where you can sit down and relax, and then we'll come back to the second part. So the first part of Cleopatra is her story with Julius Caesar. And I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking, you beautiful people out there. This is a movie titled Cleopatra. Surely she's going to be the central figure. You would be mistaken, my dear friends, because it's about Caesar for the entire first half. And I can kind of understand, like, oh, let's look at the rise, the fall of the leaders of the Roman Empire, expanding their ranks through these couple generations through the lens of the relationship of the leaders to Cleopatra. I think that is an idea to be had. But when your sole marketing is like, oh my goodness, it's Elizabeth Taylor and she's dressed like an Egyptian woman with all like the proper aesthetic, but she's white, and you're like, oh, that's bad. What else you got for me? It's off-putting. So if you're going into this like, we're going to see an honest-to-God portrayal of Cleopatra, we're not. Which is another thing I want to make abundantly clear about this film too. I'm not recommending you watch this. I will not tell anybody in their right minds to sit down for 4 hours and check this thing out. It does justice to nobody. Everybody comes off a little bit stupid. I don't think anybody walks away from this film okay. But Cleopatra gets the shit out of the stick. And look, I am not a Cleopatra expert. I do not know a lot about that woman. I do know there is one scene in the actual movie where like this woman speaks 7 different languages. She is well educated. She is well versed in the knowledge of like war and politics. If she wasn't a woman, she might actually be scary, is something people say in this. And I'm like, guys, the fact that she's a woman and is able to manipulate all of you into thinking this makes her more formidable than all of you. I'm not an expert on Cleopatra, but I can see this woman and understand the genius behind the scenes of using her sexuality as a political tactic to get what she wants for certain things. Does it kind of fall flat sometimes? Sure. But the film never portrays her as the smartest person in the room. I'm not saying she is the smartest person in the room, but she is far from the dumbest, far from the most romantic, and probably one of the least interested in the situation going on. And that's something we don't see, because in every scene we have Cleopatra on screen, she is fawning for a man, not told what to do, kind of controlled by everybody in the room, easily abused and regarded as less than, even as the queen. It's very frustrating, and it makes you annoyed, because you're like, this is far from the readings we know of this woman. This sucks. This is Hollywood being like, it's a girl, she's gonna fall in love, she has to act like a girl. It sucks. That is annoying. What I will say to the benefit of this movie is, if it is $400 million today, you feel every piece of that, because the sets are huge, the production design is immaculate, and the costuming is out of this world. Like, I have never seen so many beautifully colored, beautifully designed costumes for this type of story. It is gorgeous. It is fascinating. It is so intrinsically beautiful in this weird, deceptive way that I really enjoy seeing that. It's just so crazy and creative, gorgeous colors, not just for Cleopatra, but for all of the other like suits and armor and designs everybody else wears. It all looks really good. But like I said, the first half of this epic is not about Cleopatra per se. She becomes an intrinsic character in it. It's about Rex Harrison, baby, playing Julius Caesar. And I know what you're thinking. Rex Harrison is Julius Caesar. Surely that's just, like the classic Shakespearean actor having a dream come true. It is really weird, and I don't like it. I'm not a historian. People can say whatever they want about Caesar. I don't give a shit. It's really frustrating to see him as a person just act, because I'm just like, oh my God, okay. This guy spends the first 45 minutes of this movie in war, getting to meet this woman of Egypt. He's like, oh, she's kind of cool. I'm going to use her to get the throne here. We'll play and get like the brother out, and it's all going to be good. And then he just, I guess, falls in love with her or something. And you're like, okay. And Rex Harrison, look, I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of My Fair Lady. Dr. Dolittle will make me want to put a gun in my mouth. But I like him enough. I don't think he's the perfect choice for this, because the Rex Harrison comes out way too much in some of these roles, where you're just like, oh my goodness, yeah, this is clearly just Rex doing the Rex Harrison thing, and it's really annoying and sucks. And then like the actual death scene for Caesar is so weird, because it's just like faded out with like the scene of Cleopatra just screaming nothingness into a void, and it looks bad and it's portrayed poorly, and I don't like that. Like the first half of this entire film is just, here's Caesar, here he is getting his power, here he is enacting his power, and everybody in Rome's like, actually, no. We don't want this guy to be in charge. We don't like him doing this. We're gonna kill him. And then they kill him. And you're like, good. Honestly, good. Like, it's just so frustrating. And again, don't watch this film. It is really boring. It looks visually beautiful, but it's just Rex Harrison, like, unable to sleep at night, so he needs somebody to hold him down to find his pain. It's just him thinking he's the smartest person in the room. And that's just like, maybe he is, but it's frustrating. And then it's just, let's make Elizabeth Taylor look sexy as possible. She's in a bath. She's laying down on a table all sexy. Like, Caesar just walks in on the place where only the girls are allowed. And you're like, you're slowly getting this to be horny. And if you're going to make it horny, you got to make it horny. And we'll get to that in the second half. But they're just teasing you with the idea of all this. If I'm being honest, I think the first half is the worst part of the movie. Just because it's really boring. Because when we get to the second half, things actually start to pick up. And it's this first half, again, you know the story of Caesar. You know he's going to be portrayed. But what happens next is interesting because good old Richard Burton starts to take the lead. So let's have a little intermission right now. And when we come back, let's actually talk about part 2 of this epic. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Taryn just coming back in through the intermission because I wanted to talk a little bit about the idea of rebooting the Cleopatra story. They've been teasing it for a while. There was this idea that Patty Jenkins was attached to do it with Gal Gadot. Patty Jenkins left for creative differences. Gadot was still attached to play the character. And I think there's something interesting about doing a Cleopatra story now because in today's climate, I feel like we could tell a more authentic story where she is more like a political adversary to certain people. She knows how to use herself as a weapon. She knows how to be the smartest person in a room. That's something I would really like to see them do. I don't know if we would actually get that far in terms of like storytelling. I feel like it could become that thing that you see sometimes where the wrong talents make the character of a woman strong, but presented in such a it's just presented poorly, right? And I don't know if Gal's got the right energy to really do that. Now, I don't know any other kind of Egyptian type actresses that could really fit that role, but I don't know if Gal's got that energy in her to make that authentic. Who's to say, though? I could be completely wrong. There's just something about doing this film now I can believe, you know? If we got an entire Egyptian cast to do it, I would be in support. But who's to say? Gadot could be interesting. Probably not. All I know is doing it now, we could do a more authentic version of this character, and that's something I genuinely support. So let's take a couple more minutes in the intermission, and then, yeah, part 2. So after Caesar is killed, we have to see Cleopatra and her son flee back to Egypt before she is killed. And as that's happening, one of the favorite men of Caesar, his name is Mark Antony, played by Richard Burton, he's like, "But I love you, darling, don't go." But she has to go and he has to stay. And what ensues for the next half of this film, which I'm just going to say is the better half of the film, is genuinely, it's just watching two people who clearly are starting to fall in love with each other on screen and off screen, see who can out-horny one another. That is what happens. It is essentially romantic. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say it's pretty or like, oh man, this is like a great romantic story. Look at all this brilliant romance we're seeing. I would just say I have definitely seen worse people acting with worse dialogue doing the thing they're doing. There is a lot of good stuff here. I want to preface this first. If there is one saving grace of this film to me, it's Richard Burton. And we've talked about him when we did The Night of the Iguana. He's a guy that I absolutely adore because nobody plays a man in the middle of a crisis quite like him. Because every time you see him in any movie, he's just ready to break down into tears or break down to madness. It's brilliant. And in this film, he is just so good at being like, I hate what's happening to Rome. I just want to be with Cleopatra. I am a coward. I have to flee. Nobody respects me. Now they respect me. Nobody's going to kill me. Every single time something is happening to this man, you are just waiting for him to break down into like the most insane way possible. It's so fascinating. And the story does go like this, that Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton started to spark a kinship on set. Both of them they were married to other people at the time, but as the story goes, they kissy, things kissy elsewhere. And I buy that completely. They have great chemistry. Maybe it's because they're just two people who understand like shit is about to hit the fan in terms of our entire political system. Everything is about to fall apart, and maybe all we have is each other, but there's something to be said about that. There's some great scenes in there. There's this idea where they want to make Mark Antony like the leader, and he's like, no, I don't like this power. I don't want to be a part of it. And thus sparks kind of like the rebellion coming from within Rome to get rid of Mark Antony, and it's just like, okay, we got Octavian, who's going to become, Augustus Caesar, he's going to take on the name of whoever. You get it. It's really weird, but it's whatever. So it's kind of just like, look at the fall of the Roman Empire from the perspective of Caesar, and then Mark Antony, and then the other Caesar, and it's like, oh yeah, all through the lens of Cleopatra being the central figure, but she's not. I will say, though, in this second half, there is stuff to actually like. I really like the scene where you see Mark is like, I need her help. I need power and allegiance from her. And she's like, okay, cool. Well, I'm just going to bring a ship over because I'm not actually going to, be in Rome. I'm just going to say we're still on Egyptian soil. If I'm on the boat, you come here. I'll have a big feast. And I really like that scene because he's such a cuck, Mark Antony, I think, is a huge cuck. When we see what Julius Caesar is doing, and he's kind of like in command of some situations, he's like, I got a son, I'm happy. Look at this, everything's so happy. Look at me just bring a big parade to Rome. We'll spend 10 minutes just watching all these people just show up in these things, and a giant sphinx will show up. But when it's Mark Antony, it's just Cleopatra making this really elaborate dinner where there's dancers that openly mock him for being like Roman, and they're just like, look at you just trying to fornicate with this girl. That's all it is. And I'm like, he is so whipped, and it works because he's like, I actually don't care about any of this. I'm drunk, you're hot, you're all I want in this world. And that's what he gets, and then he starts his allegiance with Cleopatra. And you can definitely see she likes him more than Rex Harrison. And that's not a sling on Rex at all. It's just, yeah, I mean, given the choice, I'm pretty sure Richard Burton would be a better lay than Rex Harrison. I can't confirm that, though, but I'm almost positive. Come on. That, of course, is the case. And then I know what you're thinking. What else could we do? Where else are we going to go? Well, we have to get to the death of both of these characters. So in the middle of, them falling in love, falling out of love, he has to go back to Rome to do this. She's upset about him. Again, I do not like the portrayal of Cleopatra in this, where she just fawns for every guy she meets. It's so frustrating, so lazy, I think, at times. But I can't change that. Like, that is just what Hollywood's mentality was. It's like, women can't act or, have real depth. They're just in love. And it's like, maybe, but they're not. They have actual things going on. Cleopatra should have things going on. One of the things I really like is that in every single scene that we have Mark Antony, he is never wearing pants. I really dig that. What a stupid system. Like, I understand, like, armor is heavy and maybe you don't want to, like, bulk up your legs, but all of the Roman guys, they're just wearing, like, these really stupid skirts, and sometimes you just see their shorts poking through. And I'm like, how ridiculous can you get, honestly? It looks so silly and funny, but I'm here for it, man. When he's wearing, like, the cool leopard print outfit, I'm like, yes, dude, that looks good. The big floral prints, the octopus prints, like, they all look really sick. The costume design is immaculate. That is always going to be something I remember about this film. I'm also going to remember, like, the really boring ship fight where it's like, oh, man, look at our huge fleets, and we'll just, like, because clearly we have the budget to film it, but we don't have the budget to make it look good. So we're just going to have a couple of guys on a ship do nothing. A couple of ships fall. And I really like that Mark just flees. He gets on the fleeing boat, gets back to Cleopatra, and everybody on that ship's like, you're such a coward. You should have just died with your men. And then he has an entire arc after that event where he's just like, no, you don't understand. I needed to live because I love her so much. And he's heartbroken. And then it eventually leads to his death when, Octavian actually comes in and takes everything over. And it's like, yeah, okay, I don't care. It's like, even if I guess you're a history buff, it's a little more interesting. But if you have no interest in history, the story just plays off as just so romantic instead of like epic. And that could kind of be the problem. It's supposed to be an epic. And I kind of want to end things just talking about this. You focused so much on Caesar in the beginning. You focused on Mark Antony in the beginning too. And I see how Mankiewicz is like, if we split this into two parts, we could focus on the relationships more. If it was just like one long thing, it's not going to work as well. Because you feel like there is something they want to do with Cleopatra, where they want to push a more political prospect for her, maybe have her be in more control of things, where there's an entire scene towards the end where she conceives for like her own demise. I really like that scene. All the other men in her life are dead, and then Octavian comes in and he's just like, look me in the eyes, and she says, as you wish. Just kind of like, if that's what you command, clearly not giving him any power. That is her best moment in this movie, where it's like she's actually showing you she's not giving in to anybody. And the fact that it's like in the last 10 minutes, that's when it's happening. Her name is the name of the movie, and you're telling me it took her that long to step up to that moment? It's so frustrating. It doesn't bode well for really anybody, if I'm being honest. It sucks for everybody involved. And you are not going to get over it's Elizabeth Taylor. They could try to paint her up as much as you want. It's never going to work. Nobody looks how they should. The fact that they have more Egyptian-looking actors actually in the film doing roles for her really just shines that it sucks. But even if we ignore that, which I don't think we should, and it's something we need to talk about, if we just put that aside for a minute and just focus on like a Cleopatra movie where it's her relationship to the Roman Empire and how she sees it fall, there is something to be said about that. The problem is they make her fawn for every man she sees. She gets scared too easily. I can't remember if it was like an actual moment where she screams, like that classic, a female character in this type of thing screams when she sees something. But she is not the most competent woman in the movie, which kind of sucks. It should be her story, but it just sadly doesn't become that. I will say, even if they're putting these authentic looking outfits on a white woman, they are well made outfits. Like the costume design is immaculate. I really like the colors they use for this. I can hardly tell when you see a scene of switching from year to year when they're filming it. Like that's good. Like they did film it kind of in succession of the story for more authenticity is what Mankiewicz was saying. But you could kind of feel, like here's where we had to swap out the actor, so this character should be more important, but they don't have as much to do. I just really like seeing Richard Burton having a crisis. I'll watch him do that in anything. I really enjoy Martin Landau in a small role here. He is not the best. I don't think he's at what he's going to become yet, but there is something to be said about that being the case. Pretty interesting. As far as this film goes, maybe if you just called it like this, the Reign of Caesar, it would be more interesting. But if you're calling it Cleopatra, I do want to see some Cleopatra stuff in here. If you're teasing me with that, get an Egyptian actress, get some actual talented people to make sure it's authentic. Don't just give me your big Hollywood epic with these white people. So I wasted 4 hours of my life watching this thing. And I can honestly say it is one of the biggest regrets I have, because not only do I have nothing to really say about this film other than, hey, it looks good, terribly casted, Richard Burton crisis and not Cleopatra, I just don't like it. It's annoying. And to me, it's one of those amazing cautionary tales of Hollywood where it's like, yeah, you could put all the money in the world into something, but it ain't going to save it, is it? Sometimes shit just hits the fan because it has to, because you can't save everything. Not everything you make is going to be a victory. Nothing's a home run. Nothing in this industry is guaranteed. Elizabeth Taylor doesn't guarantee you a good movie. And 4 hours of my life gone. Was it worth it? Probably not. But that is going to do it for the first epic tales we talk about on Movie Tales. So thank you guys for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck. God help us all. That was intense.